Well, good evening, this is Hound Dog Steve, wishing you a very pleasant evening and welcome back to my channel. And this evening, I'd like to take a little look at the impeachment process that is taking place down south of the border here. And I would imagine that the Democrats are now looking in horror at the result of the British election because the Democratic Party have essentially gone down that same path. They have been consumed by a far-left narrative, but the attack on the President of the United States of America has been something that I have never ever seen in my life before. It has been relentless since 2016. Of course, it's coming out now that there was even concerns before 2016 with President Trump. But we've gone through the Russian bot thing, the Russian interference, the Mueller report. Everything has, for one reason or another, basically collapsed behind this president, and Donald Trump is continuing on, and the popularity in the polls is increasing. And of course, because of this impeachment and the way the Democrats have presented it as like this is the one that's going to get Donald Trump, this is the one that's going to take that president down, and it isn't going to take the president down, and but they've done it so publicly. It's hard not to see this as a witch hunt. Whether you want to call it that or not, that's certainly what it looks like, because it has been absolutely relentless and going into an election year. And of course, one of the things that might give you the idea that the Democrats are a little nervous, and I'm just going to turn over to a little clip here. Nancy Pelosi, now I will say that she was talking very coherently before this, but a reporter asked her a question about the Republicans are saying that the delaying and handing over the articles to the Senate is playing tricks. And just take a look at her response. She just completely falls apart.
So I wish you happy holidays, and whatever you are celebrating. In our house, we celebrate them all. Christmas, Hanukkah, Kwanzaa, New Year's, whatever else. But I hope you have it. Now I'll have time for a few questions. Madam Speaker,
do you run the risk as Do you run the risk, as some Republicans have said, of looking like you're playing games with impeachment if you hold on to these articles for too long?
I said what I was going to say, Nancy. When we bring the bill, which is, just so you know, there's a bill made in order by the Rules Committee that we can call up at any time in order to send it over to the Senate and to have the provisions in there to pay for the impeachment. And then the next step, whatever you want to call it, the trial. That is where you put the managers. I was not prepared to put the managers in that bill yet because we don't know the arena that we are in. Frankly, I don't care what the Republicans say. Any other questions? Not on this subject. I've said this is it. I honored Nancy.
And of course, interestingly enough, here are a couple of clips from Nancy Pelosi and Gerald Nadler from the Clinton impeachment, where they vehemently opposed moving into impeachment and willingly admitted the divisiveness of impeaching a sitting president. So here we go, let's take a look at that.
Today, the Republican majority is not judging the president with fairness, but impeaching him with a vengeance. In the investigation of the president, fundamental principles which Americans hold dear, privacy, fairness, checks and balances, have been seriously violated. And why? Because we are here today because the Republicans in the House are paralyzed with hatred of President Clinton, and until the Republicans free themselves of this hatred, our country will suffer. I rise to oppose these unfair motions which call for the removal of the President of the United States from office. The independent counsel knew that the President was exonerated when Travelgate, Whitewater, and Filegate. This was not fair. Indeed, it is the responsibility of any prosecutor to immediately release information that is exculpatory.
And we must not do so without an overwhelming consensus of the American people. There must never be a narrowly voted impeachment, or an impeachment supported by one of our major political parties and opposed by the other. Such an impeachment will produce the divisiveness and bitterness in our politics for years to come, and will call into question the very legitimacy of our political institutions. The American people have heard the allegations against the president, and they overwhelmingly oppose impeaching him. They elected President Clinton. They still support him. We have no right to overturn the considered judgment of the American people. Mr. Speaker, the case against the president has not been made. There is far from sufficient evidence to support the allegations, and the allegations, even if proven true, do not rise to the level of impeachable offenses. Mr. Speaker, this is clearly a partisan railroad job. The same people who today tell us we must impeach the president for lying under oath, almost to a person voted last year to re-elect the speaker who had just admitted lying to Congress in an official proceeding. The American people are watching, and they will not forget. You may have the votes, you may have the muscle, but you do not have the legitimacy of a national consensus or of a constitutional imperative. This partisan coup d'etat will go down in infamy in the history of this nation.
Why would you not afford the President of the United States the same opportunity to review the charges against you, and so that you could have your response be part of the report?
The President of the United States of America deserves the right to review, prior to its release, a copy of the report written by the independent counsel, his lawyers and his aides, etc., talking with the White House about what's in the report already. They have advanced information that the members of Congress don't even have.
Release investigative files and witness interviews and other documents. That seems to me unjustified and unwise, and I think it's a decision and a precedent the Justice Department will rue that it has set. This report is going to have to be made public, and of equal importance, the underlying evidence is going to have to be shared with Congress. Whenever you have a party in the majority in Congress now and someone from the other party under investigation, that investigation is ultimately declined, they're going to demand the same kind of access that we saw here.
And of course they were absolutely right. It is a completely divisive thing, and you can see the polarization that has taken place because of this impeachment. But I did watch quite a few of the interviews during the process of impeachment, and to be quite honest with you, I certainly didn't see any concrete. There was a lot of perceptions, there was a lot of hearsay, there was a lot of speculation, but actual hard evidence, I didn't see a lot of that. There was a lot of speculation. And of course, now the takeaway for the public, for the individuals like you and I, the takeaway from this is, firstly, number one, do not let your emotions, do not let your heart rule your mind in these matters. And of course, this is why people often hire a lawyer to do their litigation, because it's too personal. You know, you can't keep your emotions bottled up when you need to. And this is what the Democrats have done. They've allowed their emotions to rule their mind, and they thought, and of course the other warning is, the number two warning is, this is what happens when you do things in a bubble, when you do things in an echo chamber. I'm sure that all of this made complete sense. I'm sure that they thought that they had absolutely 100% proof when they were going through all of this stuff, because they were all on side. Everyone who discussed this plan was on board 100%, and they thought that the American public were with them. And so, you know, you have the 50% of Americans, voting Americans, who are Republicans, who are dyed-in-the-wool Trump fans. And but what you've done is you have wearied the other 50% who might have voted for the Democrats. Okay, this has been a long-winded story. It's been absolutely everything. I mean, even down to the point of the president having smaller hands. That he takes 2 scoops of ice cream. That he tried to kill the goldfish in Japan. I mean, they've cheapened themselves. You know, it's really hard to take people seriously when you are going to stoop to that level of criticism when there are far bigger issues taking place in this world. Now, I'm not saying that I'm particularly a supporter of Trump, and there's many things that Trump has done, especially on the environmental level, which are deeply questionable. Absolutely no doubt about it. But if you don't like the guy, run for office and get him out, outvote him, out-debate him. Okay, he won the election fair and square, and now to basically have 3 years of trying to deny that, just get over it. You've made it worse. You've basically guaranteed that in 2020 Trump is going to romp this election, and you are going to stand there with your mouths hung open wondering what the hell happened. Well, look in the mirror. I don't know how you could be so tone deaf, how you could not have watched the situation in the UK and watched the Labour government do exactly the same thing and not realise that there are 80% of the silent majority who do not like what is going on. There is business to be taken care of. We have to take care of our business, our bills have to be paid, our jobs have to be maintained, and you are fooling around with something. And of course, now Nancy is in the most untenable of positions because they voted for impeachment. Okay, technically the president is not impeached until those articles are handed over to the Senate, to Mitch McConnell. And once they're handed over to Mitch McConnell, the Congress has nothing to do with it. Those managers step forward, they state their case, and then Donald Trump is allowed to call his witnesses. No doubt will include the CIA whistleblower, and they will also include Hunter and Joe Biden. And we all know what's going to come out, and here is a clip of Joe Biden admitting openly that he used his position as vice president to withhold $1 billion of loan guarantees to the Ukraine unless the chief prosecutor, Poroshenko, was fired because he was investigating the company Burisma that his son, Hunter Biden, was working for, on the board for. And of course, this is what they're accusing Donald Trump of. I mean, I'm staggered. I'm literally staggered. Just take a look at this clip.
I had gotten a commitment from Poroshenko they would take action against the state prosecutor, and they didn't. I said, I'm telling you, you're not getting $1 billion. I said, you're not getting $1 billion. I'm going to be leaving here. And I think it was, 6 hours? I said, I'm leaving in 6 hours. If the prosecutor's not fired, you're not getting the money. Oh, son of a bitch. Got fired. And they put in place someone who was solid at the time.
Well, it just so happens that the general prosecutor was investigating an energy firm in which Joe Biden's son, Hunter Biden, was heavily invested. Burisma Holdings is an energy corporation in Ukraine, and Hunter Biden, the son of the former vice president, has made a rather handsome profit from it, especially in the aftermath of the 2014 events in Ukraine in which pro-EU forces took power. That prosecutor was looking into 3 different instances of foul play from Hunter's cash cow. However, all it took was a phone call from Papa Joe, and that prosecutor was out.
So there you go. I know that the Senate is going to turn this down. There will only be one of 2 outcomes, of course, and that will be either Nancy Pelosi will hand over the articles to the Senate, and Donald Trump will actually be impeached, and this is a kind of indictment, and then it goes to the trial in the Senate. And of course, because you need a 2/3 majority and the Senate is a Republican-dominated Senate, that is just not going to happen. So Donald Trump will be acquitted, and this will be basically a battle scar. And he will flash that battle scar around during the course of 2020 that this is what the Democrats did. They would rather try and hack him down instead of taking care of the business of ordinary Americans. And let me tell you, the life for ordinary Americans has actually gotten better, or the appearance of anyways. Certainly people are a lot more positive. And I'm actually reading a book right now called Death by China. And you know what? I'm starting to really think that we should seriously think about repatriating some of our manufacturing, even if it seems inefficient and uneconomical. At least it is reasonably safe. And maybe I will do a video on Death by China, but some of the things in this book are absolutely staggering. Anyway, here is one last piece from Zero Hedge, which I want to read to you, and then I'm just going to come back and sign off, because that's probably enough time for this evening. Okay, here we go. Buchanan, is impeachment backfiring on Democrats? Authored by Patrick Buchanan via buchanan.org. We're going to impeach the bleep bleep de beep bleep 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 bleep. Thus did the member from Michigan, Rashida Tlaib, declare last January to be the goal of the 2019 House Democratic Caucus. Wednesday night, Speaker Nancy Pelosi delivered the goods. The House impeached President Donald Trump on a straight party line vote. Not one Republican signed on to the most partisan impeachment in U.S. history. Yet as we head for trial in the Senate, Democrats seem to be having nervous second thoughts over what they have done. Minority Leader Chuck Schumer called for the Senate to subpoena 4 new witnesses the House never heard of. Nancy Pelosi signaled Wednesday night that she might not send over to the Senate the articles of impeachment the House had just approved. Majority Leader Mitch McConnell took to the floor both Wednesday night and Thursday morning to have the Senate, which is judge and jury of the impeachment charges, to start calling witnesses whom the House prosecutors failed to pursue could set a nightmarish precedent. Said McConnell, Schumer would apparently like our chamber to do House Democrats' homework for them. Schumer's plea for new witnesses is an admission that the House's case for impeaching Trump is inadequate and deficient and could prove wholly non-credible to the American people. After all, if you need more witnesses, you probably do not have the smoking gun. The message sent by Pelosi's call for more time before the trial and Schumer's call for more witnesses is one of fear that not only could the House case for impeachment fail, it could be laughed out of the Senate, and the American people might be fine with that. The Democratic Party has bet the ranch on the impeachment and removal of Trump for imperiling our national security. But are Schumer and Pelosi behaving as though the Republic is in mortal peril? Schumer's call for new witnesses also underscores the thinness of Article 1 of the impeachment, Trump's alleged abuse of power. Beneath Article 1, there is not a single crime listed. No treason, no bribery, no extortion, no high crimes. What kind of impeachment is this, with not one crime from the list of the Founding Fathers designated as impeachable acts? Why did the Democratic House not impeach Trump for conspiring with Russia to steal the 2016 election? Answer: the House could no more prove this charge than could Robert Mueller after 2 years. Other events are breaking Trump's way. The James Comey FBI investigation Mueller inherited has begun to take on the aspect of a deep state conspiracy. According to the Justice Department's IG, Michael Horowitz, the Pfizer court warrants used to justify FBI spying were the products not only of incompetence, but also of mendacity and possible criminality. The essential evidence used by the FBI to get the Pfizer judge to approve warrants for surveillance was the Steele dossier. An ex-British spy, Christopher Steele, was working in mid-2016 for a dirt diving operation hired by the DNC and Clinton campaign to go after Trump. His altarpiece, the dossier, we learned from Horowitz, was a farrago of fabrications, rumour and lies fed to Steele by a Russian subsource. In the 4 FBI submissions to the Pfizer courts for warrants to spy on Carter Page, there were at least 17 significant errors or omissions, and all 17 went against Team Trump. Moreover, the discrediting of the Comey investigation has just begun. U.S. Attorney John Durham will report this spring or summer on his deeper and wider investigation into its roots. As IG of Justice, Horowitz's investigation was confined to his department and the FBI, but Durham is looking into the involvement of U.S. and foreign intelligence in the first days of the FBI investigation. Attorney General Bill Barr and Durham have both said they do not share Horowitz's view that there was no political bias at the beginning of the investigation of the Trump campaign. Durham's writ is far wider than Horowitz's, and he has the power to impanel grand juries and bring criminal indictments. Among the fields Durham is ploughing are reports that agents and assets of the FBI and CIA may have set up Trump foreign policy aide George Papadopoulos. Possible purpose? To feed him intel about Russia having dirt on Hillary Clinton, and then entrap him, put him in legal jeopardy, and turn him into an investigative instrument to be used against Trump. With the Horowitz report confirming what the Trumpers have been reporting and saying about Comey's investigations for years, and the newly proven manipulation of the Pfizer courts, the media hooting about right-wing conspiracy theories seem to have been toned down. Carter Page, once considered a dupe of the Russians, is now seen as a patriot who assisted his country's intelligence services only to be made a victim of injustice, who saw his civil rights be trampled upon by his own government. The cards appear to be falling Trump's way. And this from RT: by impeaching Trump, Democrats have made him more powerful than they could ever imagine. From coast to coast, the resistance is cheering the impeachment of President Donald Trump in the House. They shouldn't be, for in seeking to destroy him, they have only made him more powerful and undercut themselves. Let's not mince words. Wednesday's vote was the culmination of efforts that began on November the 8th, 2016, with Trump's shocking triumph over Hillary Clinton. Or maybe even before, on whatever date the FBI actually began investigating the Trump campaign for Russian collusion, as per accusations coming from the Democrats. Speaker of the House Nancy Pelosi, Democrat California, wore black and intoned about sadness and solemnity of the day for the American Republic and its importance for our democracy. It was a bonfire of hypocrisies, as the party that has spent years denouncing everything about America, its flag, anthem, founders, and even the political system, now claiming to be defending it all from the clear and present danger Trump somehow represented. Even now it is unclear what they sought to accomplish. There is no indication that the Republican majority Senate will actually vote to convict the president and remove him from office. And the Democrats know this. Nor is being impeached going to somehow disqualify Trump from being on the ballot in 2020, no matter what some Republican commentators on MSNBC and CNN may argue. If the plan was to sabotage Trump's second-term campaign, it seems to have backfired spectacularly. With every hearing before the Intelligence or Judiciary Committee, the public support for impeachment actually decreased. Even CNN was forced to admit the existence of growing evidence that the public impeachment proceedings in the House against Trump may be actually helping him politically. Indeed, what better way for Trump to solidify his bona fides as the populist outsider than to be impeached by the coastal elites and the Washington swamp in what amounted to a nakedly partisan process. And so always good articles from Zero Hedge. I can highly recommend this website. He scours the internet for the most interesting and obscure stories, different writers, a lot of well-written articles, as you can see. So please check that out. And in the meantime, if you enjoyed this video, please like, comment and subscribe below. And in the meantime, this is Hound Dog Steve wishing you a very pleasant evening. And we'll talk very, very shortly. See you now. Bye.